So, welcome to today's podcast with the rather incredible Jack Dyer. And I will explain why I consider him rather incredible. I bumped into him as probably the most serendipitous, you can look it up if you ain't familiar with that one, of meetings. It was in Excel, which is a bloody enormous space. It had heaving hordes of people in it on that day. And yet Jack and I managed to find ourselves in the same bit of square meterage, doing something not wildly dissimilar. We were both just scoping out what was going on, and Jack was doing his magic, which we'll come round to. And as a result, we just sort of went, "You're okay, and you're okay." And as a result, we are here today talking to each other. Ladies and gentle persons, allow me to introduce Jack Dyer, who will now tell you a little bit about himself, and then we will drill into it during this podcast. Jack, over to you, buddy.
Hello, cheers. Yeah, thank you, Thomas. I thought I'd just do jazz hands, straight away. Why not? But it's not the traditional professional introduction. But yeah, I am I guess where to start? I suppose I'm an entrepreneur, designer, business owner now. I have a little team. But a year ago, I was just an employee. And now I've got a little team of, I think last count, it was 6 plus me. So 7 in our team total, which is amazing. And life has changed irrevocably in the last 18 months for the better. Yeah, lots of good stuff, including going to the Excel, going to business shows, traveling all over the country and meeting fantastic people such as Thomas. So yeah, it's all turned out for the best.
Praise indeed. Thank you very much. If you've been to all these shows and you still consider me okay, I'm very, very grateful. That or you need a checkup from the neck up. We'll have to work out during the course of the show which
I've not
way
heard
we
that
might
before,
have.
but I like it.
It's an old one. It's a very, like lots of my good stuff, it's old but gold.
Nice.
Jack, when we were rambling around a little bit of your background, albeit you've had the good fortune of a lot fewer years on this planet than me, you talked about your entrepreneurial beginnings selling apples.
Yes. Yeah, very much so.
And it was interesting because you didn't automatically see yourself as a business person. And you have really surprised me. I knew you had a small team, but the difference between 2 people and 6 people is a significant jump. And for the mathematicians and statisticians, it's a 3-fold jump. 3-fold in any number is a big jump.
Yeah.
And that is a business.
Yeah.
Let me also just put it out there, because this is a Dads in Business podcast. Yes, Jack is not actually a dad. Jack is here for the benefit of you, my dear audience, because Jack has got a bit of a secret sauce and a bit of magic, which, if you think about it, is a fair statement. If you've grown in the last 18 months, and we'll come on to those numbers and what that growth looks like, you were hitting three very important tags, I feel. One, you are genuinely a businessman, because you have to go out and you have to, what do they call it? You eat what you kill. So, you starve. If you ain't getting revenue in, you're going to go hungry. And now there are 6 mouths that rely on you to feed. So that's a responsibility. You have found a niche and a space that works for you as you. And
100%.
that's proven by the fact that you've grown. So
yeah, exactly.
walk me through, just so we can sort of come back to it. I'm going to give it the anchor point of this as we go through this show. What do you do?
So essentially, it's a very straight shooting question. And of course, it's usually the one that people, no, it's good. It's usually the one that people say oh yeah, so what do you do? At meetings and stuff. I help business, well, me, actually, I say but it's my team, really. They're the geniuses behind it all. I help my audience, which is CEOs, parents, dads, mothers, whoever they are, leaders in their field, to connect more authentically with their audience on LinkedIn and beyond. So effectively, there's a whole history of design that's led up to this moment. But basically, I take your LinkedIn profile, your presence, and I make it more attractive to your ideal clients. And I do that in a way that connects every part of your business with your audience in an ongoing partnership. It's not just, we're not just copywriters or designers. Sure, I have writers, I have designers, but together the Storytold partnership is one that grows your business from a place of authentic visual storytelling. And it's a really fun partnership. We have delight as one of our core values. We're meant to just get on calls every week, have a nice time, have a chat, build out a content strategy, and effectively get you to grow your audience in the same way that I've grown mine.
So I didn't know this. So you have a strong link within visual as well as copywriting. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes. So I come
Okay.
from a design background.
Okay. And it's obviously a framework that you've put together because you've got 6 people to sing off the same hymn sheet.
Yes.
Cool. And an 18-month journey. What were you doing before 18
Yeah.
months ago?
Um, so
If it's fair to answer, I don't want to
it
compromise you.
is.
You can plead the fifth.
No, I wasn't working for MI5 or anything. We're all good. I was a designer for a company called Interactive Schools. Fantastic company. They designed the best websites for the world's leading schools. And I was very fortunate enough to be able to travel to a lot of these schools, such as Harvard Westlake in Los Angeles, Buckley
Yep.
in Los Angeles, a second Buckley school in New York. So the first
Okay.
Buckley was where a lot of celebrities' children's
Okay.
children. Um,
Children.
yeah, multiple offspring, and the big Buckley in New York was also one where I've walked the halls that presidents have walked when they were kids. That's kind of cool. And then, of course, lots of other schools, like some in Germany, some in Switzerland, some all across the UK, some on the other side of the East Coast of America, like the East Coast, like Boston. Not quite Harvard, but Harvard Westlake. That was kind of an affiliated school. Very cool. So as a designer, most designers don't get to do these things. We just sort of sit in our room, we're like typing away on our keyboards, and that's it. We're just like beavering away at work. And to be able to be sent out to all these schools on behalf of Interactive Schools, representing my company or my boss's company at the time, and getting to a point where I'm meeting these incredible people. I'm learning about their stories, their journeys. We're doing all this process, this brand positioning, this focus groups, the discovery process, and learning as much about them as we can so that we can build the world's best websites for them. I realized, you know what? This is amazing. And everyone here has a story. Why don't I do this as a business for myself? Not in the same way, not with schools, but why don't I help people to communicate more authentically online? Because I'm seeing so many amazing people. I realized that I had a lot more to give than just being a 9 to 5 employee. And it ties back to you mentioned apples when I was a kid. I used to sell apples. I've always had this entrepreneurial streak, and I also sold cookies at one point. I would find them from the spa and find the 2 for a quid deal and sell them at £1 a pack each. Ultimately, 100% profit right there. Good business. But yeah,
Decent branding.
MP3 players. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, you mean with cookies or with
Co-op.
Storytold? Yeah,
Well, now we'll come on to Storytold because that's screamingly obvious. But there's a lot of personality in Storytold that I also want to come on to. But no, you
very
look,
true.
you picked up a decent brand. Co-op is an ever-present brand.
Yes.
It's had a few bumps along the way with strange leadership, but that again is the downside of having a personality at the helm of a business. Sometimes those
Mhm.
personalities can become toxic or fall into a trap that I've had several times in my life, that human nature trap where you make some decisions that I now link into mental health. I think there were times when I was at my least unwell mentally, and I
Yeah.
can only quantify that by some of the decisions I made. However, they were framed by social imprinting when I was growing up. And some of that was positive. Like you, I was a wheeler dealer from my very early teens, and I was a negotiator with my father because I remember some of the stuff I cajoled, bullied, nagged, and harangued out of that poor fella as a child. Shit I wanted and wouldn't give up until I got it. I'm paying the price now because my 9-year-old does it to me and is extremely expert at it, to the
Nice.
point where only last weekend, with the agreement between his mother and I, my ex-wife, um, but with the agreement with her, we allowed him to buy his own Christmas present 6 weeks or 5 weeks early. That gives you a clue, guys, as when this is being recorded, because we're dangerously close to Christmas. So, yeah, and Jack, I warn you now that don't be shocked that the child you may or may not have in the future is going to have some elements of you in him or her, or all of them
Yes.
if you have a little tribe. But rest assured, there's an old saying: the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It ain't far wrong, by any stretch of the imagination. So just be prepared for that one. And there's plenty of dads on here will tell you the same, I have no doubt. The couple of things that jump out at me, which I find very interesting, and it relates back to me meeting you, because you have a dynamism, a dynamic nature that shines through, and it's really cool. But it's a considered one, because how many other designers, graphic people, artists to a degree, what you have is an artistic flair and talent. To put them on a plane and send them into another country, and whilst they speak the same language, I remain convinced that Americans are a subset of nearly everyone else. They're one of the youngest countries as an
Yeah.
evolved, modern Western country. They're one of the youngest, and they remain that way. And I keep reminding myself that they're quite young, because we've got theatres older than America is in
Yeah.
London,
We
and
do.
they were just places of entertainment, for crying out loud. So I know they get giddy about Harvard and Berkeley, and rightly so. They're great seats of learning, which is another topic for another podcast as to whether they're even going to survive the next 20 or 30 years. But you went there with your eyes wide open. And I mean, it was a very clever business model by your old boss to actually send someone in, put them in the mix, and get a feel, taste, and understanding of the source that
Yeah.
makes the difference between Harvard and Harvard
Westlake, yeah.
Westlake.
So
Thank you.
different age levels between the two. Like Harvard, obviously uni level, and Harvard Westlake is like 11 to 15-year-olds that then go off to Harvard. So yeah,
Okay, so college. Would they call that college in the States? Harvard Westlake.
I guess so. Yeah, it's yeah, I guess it would be college. Yeah, it's just sort of
Okay,
a private secondary school. So
and not cheap.
no, not at all. I think term costs across the board in America for private schools are between, oh no, not term, sorry, yearly costs, annual costs are like, no, I think it might be term. It's either term or annual, 40 to 60,000.
Let's hope it's
Insane.
annual. Otherwise, you're
Yeah.
gonna double or treble that number. But still,
Yeah.
not to be sniffed at.
No,
Not to be
definitely not.
sniffed at. But you went there. This is still quite a bridge to walk across, and you've built it on your own. And on the other side of it is Storytold.
Yeah.
But you were going over there with your eyes open and thinking, well, this it's nice. I
Yeah.
get the vibe. You enjoyed yourself.
Very much so.
Cool. And then B, you went, hang on a minute. There's an opportunity here to do more, be more.
Yeah. 100%, because I realised that autonomy, it's probably, if my old boss, he's a lovely, lovely bloke. If he's listening to this, which I very much doubt, he is a dad. He's got 4 kids, but
Well, we live in hope,
yeah,
because he should be trying to up his game, and that's what this is about. So, what's his name?
fingers crossed.
What's his first name?
Simon. Yeah.
Simon. If you're listening, well done. If you're not, then someone go and beat him around the head, because this is the place. This is the place for great dads to grow.
There you go.
They are plug out the way.
That's it. Honestly, he's created an amazing company, and his whole team is just wonderful. And it would have been so much easier to leave if they'd have been shit. If the company had been shit or the team had been shit, it would have been so much easier to go, you know what, I'm out. But it was more difficult because it was such a wrench to pull myself away from them. I was doing great work. Like they loved the clients loved what I did, the team liked what I did, and I liked what I did. And to then go, you know what, I'm going to do something totally different, because it was web design for schools. And now I'm doing visual storytelling for founders, for CEOs. So totally different. And there was no LinkedIn work at all involved. And now that I've chosen that's my niche is just on LinkedIn. Yeah, total shift. But the autonomy was what gave me that mindset.
Okay, because I was struggling to see what would be a big enough pull to pull you out of that comfort zone.
Yeah,
And
that was
now
it.
I get it. So So where did
Sorry,
you
go
get
on.
the taste for the autonomy? No, it's okay. But where did you get the taste for the autonomy? Was it when you were traveling that you sort of went, this would be great if I didn't have an office to report into, or if I didn't have that little string attached to one arm? Was it that, or was it something else?
Yeah, combo. Like it was at least a percentage of that, but also just going back to my roots of being that entrepreneurial kid, selling MP3 players, cookies, apples, whatever, and trying to make it on my own, trying to do something different. I think I'm not an ADHD person, I don't think, but I've got a lot of the traits of ADHD, or maybe I am and I'm undiagnosed. Hard to say, but I know that ADHD people don't generally fit into the 9 to 5, the structure very well. And I noticed that I don't either. So with that in mind, I thought, okay, let's look at some of the other leaders who've done their own thing. There's a guy called Mark Tilbury. He
Yeah,
created a chain of, do you know him? Yeah.
I
Yeah,
know the
he's
name.
created a chain. And he's now super, super big on YouTube. But grew his fortune from the age of 23 when he left his job being a carpenter, making wooden bins for £2 an hour back in the 70s, to now running, I think when he was 30, he made his first million as a toy shop
Okay.
owner. And he did like art, remote control cars and models and stuff. But following his passion and putting in the graft and building it himself was all because he didn't like the existing structure and he didn't like the way things were done. That's not how I've done it. I actually quite liked the structure that Simon had. The company was really good, but I don't like the. I guess I'm maybe it's like a trouble with authority kind of piece. Maybe I need to be the one who's coming up with all the cool ideas and making a bunch of cool shit and helping to spread the good word and knowing that if I want to go and visit a client in America next week, I can. I don't have to wait for the next allotted slot. I can just go. You know what? I'm gonna go fly over and see them. That freedom it's really something that you can't like buy. You have to sort of create. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I created Storytold.
Okay. So there's a rebellious streak in there somewhere.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Because I see that.
Anti-convention. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, but the reason why I mention it because and I don't think I've got it in front of me, which is a great shame, but I bet you've got one. So your placard, the business contact card that you gave me, that was about. Hang on a minute, where's the camera gone? So it's about that tall and it's about that
Yes.
wide. I can't think what it's shaped like, but it's so that bit of kit down the bottom. It's got on
Yeah.
there. I think it might be on the other side, but there's a bit on the bottom. No, it's the other side, I think. So if you've got this, then we need to speak because I obviously don't think you're boring or something along those lines.
Hmm.
Now that
That's it.
that's
Yeah.
that's quite a clever, punchy piece of copywriting, but it is also a brilliant, absolutely brilliant segregator because
Yeah.
people that don't resonate with that and anyone watching, both of you, you need to bear in mind that sometimes making sure the people you don't want to talk to realize that early on and it gives that thing that you're so keen on now, that reason why, that trigger that got you to leave, Simon,
Hmm.
that trigger was that you really wanted to control who was in your orbit.
I think so. Yeah, like I was being pulled towards something greater as opposed to running from something bad because there was nothing bad to run from. It was just the pull of creating my own thing was stronger and also being inspired by Simon. Like, let's face it, he'd built a fantastic business. And if I can get to my company to that level one day, I'd be amazingly happy to. So it was definitely more of a, yeah, not running from a difficult situation, but running towards something greater.
I like that. I like that. I might have to
Yeah.
use that. And listen, mate, I think so I say this a lot to people because I don't think they get it. And I
Mhm.
personally, I constantly have to have this conversation with myself. But the reality is Simon found you,
Mm.
gave you a job and gave you quite a lot of authority and autonomy, didn't he? I mean, you were an integral piece of that product that came out at the end of the production line.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, a lot
So,
of time designers don't get to be that level, but at the level I was, he trusted his designers to actually go out and be embedded. Clients felt happier as a result. They're not just getting some pokey little agency from the UK, they're getting a personalized experience. And yeah, that autonomy was awesome. Yeah.
but it was also a chosen to, so just, I mean, I dig into this because it's just my background. I've had thousands of salespeople come around me, through me, or pass over me. There's a good few that were better than me. So you learn from all of them. And Simon was bright enough to connect a team. I think again, that's one of his skills that maybe you've reflected on it. If you haven't, I would guide you towards reflecting on it, because what he was doing, and I suspect you're doing okay because you've gone from 2 to 6 and you haven't crumbled. But again, you're aggravating people to come towards you and stick with you
Hmm.
in your design team, in your process of your business. And that's another skill. Again, we talk about business, and in this digital age, i'm I'm still very much struggling, and I'm enjoying growing my LinkedIn enormously. Love these podcasts. I just find it fascinating to get you guys on the other side of a conversation and
Yeah.
hear about your journeys and what you do, and I'm hoping that resonates out. We will see. It's early days, but my point is, to come back to it eventually, the the skill of growing a business is so multifaceted.
Hmm.
You've got to find that team, then you've got to keep them lit up. You've got to keep them aware of where you want to go and why you're going there. And they've got to share that journey and want to be on the bus, train, plane that you're on.
Yeah.
You're doing that. You're doing that, which is brilliant. And so I see no reason, to go back to the point you made. I see no reason on God's earth why you would not replicate Simon.
Yeah. I would love
You were
to.
doing a chunk. Well, you were doing a chunk of what his business was anyway. You were an integral part of that finished product. Then you fitted in with the team, which means that, if you're in a room full of leopards, you know when the lion's turned up because it's not one of the leopards. So you can see people that are your own tribe and
Yeah.
understand what they are. I suspect, because you don't talk about your team all the time. When we've been having conversations prior to today, I wasn't aware that you had a team of 6. I can
Hmm.
tell you from running sales teams, a team of 6 is not much easier than a team of 60,
Hmm. Okay.
because it's a bit more intense, and it's also it's a lot more reactive. When there's under 10 of you in a room, or under 10 of you pulling in the same direction, what's going on or what's going off the rails, it
Yeah.
happens a lot faster.
Yeah.
As it gets bigger, you've got more opportunities to just course correct in case something gets a bit wobbly on its journey. And you've
Hmm.
got less intensity as to when it's going in the wrong direction. It doesn't instantly derail the whole business.
True.
Whereas, to be honest, if 20% or 17%, one person out of your team went off on a tangent, or went in the wrong direction, or you turned whatever, mate, you'd feel it fast.
Yeah. It's
So,
true.
that growth curve that you've got from 2 to 6, and the next one will probably be 6 to 16. You won't feel it because you're not going out there looking for 10 people. But I suspect the evolution, if you look at your 18 months that you've gone in growth,
Yeah.
be prepared. I suspect that you're going to have that sort of continual surge of growth that you won't, you'll look back and you go, well, do you know what? And it's the old story. They talk about it sort of, how hard is it to make your first 10,000? Well, I can tell you right
Very.
now, doing what I'm doing, indescribably difficult. One of the most
Hmm.
difficult phases of growth I've ever gone through. And I've built businesses from scratch in 5 countries. And I've
Nice.
I've morphed into 3 more. So, and I've done it at different stages of my life. When I was young, it was just all about energy and hustle. And it
Hmm.
was also a different environment. It was pre-internet, it was pre-mobile. Well, mobile phones were in their infancy. I think my first mobile phone cost me about 3 grand, and it wasn't that mobile, let me tell you. I've got suitcases that are smaller than that mobile phone
Yeah.
was. Um, so it's interesting, the challenges you face, but the growth curve, particularly in your field of scale
Hmm.
and growth, that that's amazing, because you've got an opportunity there where you are going to jump. I predict. I predict that you're going to jump in a way that you'll sort of look back and go, because mate, let's face it, what was it when it was a team of two 18 months ago? You didn't really have a date on the calendar to go to 6, did you?
Not at all, no. It was me and my writer, Annika. She was the first one to join. And again, like, it's worth noting that this team is comprised of full-time people, part-time people, and contractors. So eventually I'll get, 6 full-time people, and that would be incredible. And, the fact that I'd be able to pay them all the salaries that they deserve would be incredible. But yeah, it was just me and my part-time writer who started off as a virtual assistant, and she became so good at that I was like, you know what, do you want to do more? And she said, yes, I absolutely love writing. I gave her a couple of things to write for one of my clients, and I only had one client back then, and she was so good at it. I instantly didn't do any edits. I just put it out to the client, and he loved it as well. Guy from Ohio called Mike, and no, North Carolina called Mike, and yeah, Annika, she said, not gonna lie, in her Welsh accent, North Wales she's from, not gonna lie, I effing love doing this. And I was like, great, then you can do more of it. If you love it, then that's what you can do. So then I was down an assistant, and my calendar went to shit for a bit. But the client was happy because she'd now leveled up and started doing writing. And I was like, this is the start of a team. I didn't realize it at the time, but that level of almost promoting her to do something that was more meaningful meant that I could then not do that so much. I could level up, I could look for other people, I could grow the business. And she then, it's just this really nice like stepping stone, right? Like, I raised her up, she raised the level of the client up. Everything just sort of grew, and now all of a sudden we've got Annika, Tash, Louis, Gabby, Shaney, Thomas, and me. So yeah, seven
and that's
people.
A different Thomas, everyone. Before anyone starts getting any mysterious thoughts, it's a different Thomas. Although, listen, I'm open for consulting gigs, and in case anyone's confused, I'm open to be of value and get paid some money for doing so. Again, this brings me back to the serendipity of you and I bumping into each other, because you are clearly, and there are certain people, I talk about this a lot, I feel it in my bones, but there are certain people that travel under their own guiding star. And, Annika finding you, your business having space for her to grow into, you having the presence of mind and wisdom and the lack of ego to go, she's really good at this, why am I doing it? That they are pieces. I mean, Trivial Pursuit doesn't get the coverage it gets anymore, but they are pieces of a pie in that Trivial Pursuit pot that you're trying to win. And they're pieces that you can't automatically throw in, or you can't go on a shelf and pick them up. They happen because of what's going on. I mean, I've had a great couple of weeks, just to put this in context. I've had, in the last 2 weeks, I would say, have been some of the best weeks of this journey of growing Undeniable Dad. 3 weeks ago, things were so shit that I even had to explain to my 9-year-old, listen, babe, I'm sorry, but my head is crushed. It's been a really, really tough week. I'm sorry if I'm a bit snappy. I'm sorry if I'm not giving you the energy and attention we normally have together. And he said, it's okay, Dad. It's okay. It will change. It's only for now. And I know that you'll survive and get through it. And they were his genuine words, and that is his sentiment. Now, some of that comes from his school. They have a great deal of positive messaging, and some of it comes from the dynamic of his home life with his mother and his home life with me. So I reflect on that simply because I think some of this is hustle. I'm not of the Vaynerchuk world of you've got to hustle and grind. I think he's less about that now. I think it works when you're very young. I think it's important that you understand what you can and can't do. However, what you also have to do is not quite be on the hamster wheel, but you always have to be putting an energy into what you want to do, so that those lucky moments, those Annika moments, and then the Carolina Mike moments, because that was a perfect client to be served by you, then Annika, and then for that service and business to continue to evolve. without your interjection. Those things happen because you're doing stuff. They don't
Yeah.
happen because you sit at home humming or visualizing. Yes, there is a healthy degree of, sorry, I've got two cats and they're obviously in a mad mood today. So one of them is just destroying a plant, which we'll come back to later. I'm sure I'm sure the edit will pull that bit out. We'll see what happens there. Um, the the point, to get back to it, is just that I think sometimes we have to be relentless. And you were still growing the business in an aggressive way, I suspect, because you've got quite a polished approach now. Although, again, everyone, dear audience, one of the things that really drew me to Jack was he was very much branded at this show, this rather large show in the Excel. He was very much branded up. It was clear. I mean, that cerise hoodie is not is not to be missed. And
True.
when you've got you and Tash wandering around, I mean, it was like looking for the Red Bull person. You couldn't really miss that they were definitely branded and on point. But you were still placing cards, smaller business cards, that said, "Come talk to us, come be with us." That tiny little thing there, he was hiding that on someone else's, I'm going to call it an A-frame, but it was like their
Yeah.
blackboard outside their auditorium, small auditorium area for their speech.
Yeah. Just popping it on the top like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
popping it on the top like that so it couldn't blow away was also something that was grabbing attention. I mean, look, so a little funny story from my past, a very long time ago, which is how nearly all my stories start. I was working with some guys that had come out of the pharmaceutical industry, and two of them had previous to that been in tobacco. They used to sell Marlboro. And I'm not quite sure how you saw. I think they were more sort of like promo and big accounts. But they were taught and trained to put a cigarette packet whenever they were out. They would put a cigarette packet stood up on the table.
Huh.
So it was highly prominent, and it was clear that that they were smoking that brand. And I used to smoke again 100 years ago, but I used to smoke, and I had certain brands that mattered to me. I wanted to smoke that brand, and I didn't mind if someone saw the packet. So, and again, another thing around, it's just popped in my head, random as shit. Sorry, guys, but people used to get cigarettes made for them. I remember again back in the day when people would have cigarettes made for them, and those people would then put them inside a silver cigarette case. So you wouldn't be pulling Marlboro out of these. See, this is the age gap coming up now. But
Now I know the cigarette cases. Yeah.
that's right. You see, that was the driver behind having a cigarette case. So the two things went together. That by definition, if you have a cigarette case, it's because you're not buying retail fags, and secondly, you're of a status. So it was all about status. And similarly, Marlboro was a premium brand. It was heavily invested into Formula One and certain other areas that were very high profile areas. And that high profile imaging went into putting your cigarette packet or getting your sales force and your brand ambassadors, which was a phrase that didn't exist then, but that's what they used to do. And I refer back to that because that's what you did with your business card. That your promotional piece of printed material was very much positioned in a way that said, here's a brand, and here's what you should be paying attention to. And it was done in a sneaky way. So it was sort of like, it was almost Where's Waldo in terms of hiding it. Don't worry, mate. We're going to get all of your literature and all of your plugs in at the show notes, so that if anyone needs, wishes, or wants to, if they've got a spark of interesting about them, then they're allowed to reach out to you. To be honest, I doubt if there's too many vanilla folks following this podcast. And if they are, they're going to get alienated, because between my little bit of swearing and the fact that we have such a wide range of interesting and entertaining guests, I don't expect vanilla to sit with us too much. So don't worry. The people that contact you off of this, I'm sure, will be, that's handy. I like him. He's cool. So we'll aim for that for you as well. Rest assured. Talking of which, just to try and help you, because help you to help the audience. Where's your business pitch? What is it you do that other people don't? Or how do you do what you do that gets results? And I understand already that clearly you get inside them. It's not sort of like you read the back of the ingredients and go, yeah, I can do that. I'll make one of those, and it turns out nothing like. So
Yeah.
how do you do it? What's your secret sauce if there is one?
Yeah, so that the way you just described it, like reading the recipe, just going, yeah, whatever, whacking it together and just hoping for the best. That's pretty much how most people approach their content. It's also, sadly, how most content writers approach content for their clients. And they will just, because they can, they'll just chuck in ChatGPT and then they'll churn something out and it'll be vaguely reminiscent of what the client actually says and does, but it won't have that soul. It won't have that heart to it. And the secret sauce is like, that age old thing of like, oh, the secret recipe is love. And it's very cliche. The secret sauce to Storytold isn't love, but it is fun. It's engagement. It's having a personality. It's basically, it would be so easy to lump us together with a whole bunch of other, we'll just get a copywriter. We'll just get a cheapo copywriter off the internet for 10 quid an hour and they can just do everything for me. Sure, you can. They won't do it very well. It's like if you're if you're building a house, if you're doing any kind of endeavor that's creative and that there's an applicable outcome at the end, you need someone who's qualified and who can actually do it properly. So the secret sauce to Storytold really is we are a partnership where instead of 20 hours, spending 20 hours a week wasting time writing content, instead of spending 10 hours a week going back and forth with a bloody content writer who doesn't get it right or just half-asses it. You spend 1 hour a week just meeting us and we do it all for you, but we do it properly. We understand everything about you, your tone of voice, your personality. We understand your value equation, how you position yourself to the world, your why, the Simon Sinek approach, the who you are, what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. And then we even go and create like a custom font in your handwriting. So you would give us all the letters and then we'll create a custom font for you and we'll use that on your designs. So everything is personalized to you. The best way that I can describe it is we are your partners in growth and you get a whole team of people for the cost of less than one employee every month. And it's a whole thing. Our partnership is not necessarily what I'd call cheap. The minimum price starts at 2,900 a month.
Focus. Yours has done it a couple of times to you as well, so it'd be interesting to see what the end
Amazing.
result is. Sorry, bud,
Yeah.
but thank you for mentioning it. Now I'm here.
No, that's all right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. So yeah, weird. I'll just try and stay still. Yeah. The secret sauce, really, if that was a good place to cut back to, the secret sauce is very much
2,900, and you get a whole team of people was where you got distracted.
exactly. And the whole team, we are so focused on making sure that we do the best job possible for you, to the point where we have internal team meetings where we're like, how can we do things better? You won't ever see us doing this, but behind the scenes, we're also always chatting amongst ourselves to try and improve your content, come up with new content strategy, everything that hits your business goals and meets your audiences and matches what your audience expect to see from you, and sometimes what they don't, but it stops people scrolling. And most importantly of all, we don't use AI. We can use
Okay.
AI for our internal admin and our processes, sure, but we don't let AI write your output, write your content, because it has to be you. It has to come from you, and that's what people buy. There's a whole. I could go. You've tapped on something now. You've opened the floodgate, and I could just talk about this all day, but I won't for the
No, you
sake of
can.
argument.
You can, because I want to come back round to AI. So I'm curious. You can punch the pulpit for a little while yet on this AI. Tell me more.
It's just this massive bugbear because we see the value in it. It's an amazing, amazing tool. And it's Don Norman and Jacob Nielsen, the fathers of UX, user experience design, for those who don't
Yeah.
know what UX is. This is how a website feels. So there's very much, sounds all hippy dippy and it sounds fluffy, but you've got the UI, user interface, which is the thing that you interact with to get the results you want. So the visuals, how it looks, where a button is, what the screen looks like. UX is the user experience, what you as a person feel while you're using that website. And so that's like if you have to scroll down for ages and get to the thing that you're looking for, and it should just be at the top, or if you have to click about 7 times instead of once. This is all the optimization of the web, effectively. And these two amazing people, Don Norman and Jacob Nielsen, they are basically the founders of this entire field of UX. They said, well, Jacob Nielsen said that AI is the biggest paradigm shift in 60 years, ever since TVs became color, basically. That was the last sort of big technological advancement in terms of like media that we consume. And AI is now, it's becoming an entity all of its own. So my point with it is that we're not anti-AI. People think we are. We're just anti-AI taking over you, AI replacing your voice, because it should be used to supplement, to complement, not to replace you. So if you're getting AI to write your content, you're an idiot because it doesn't work. It actually turns people off. I'm sorry to tell it like it is for the one person in the audience out of two who's using AI, but yeah, don't use AI for your content because people can spot it straight away and they just go, "Oh, sod this," and they'll scroll on.
I wanted you to have a little go on this for two reasons. One, AI is ultra prevalent in our lives. I think anyone with any sort of thought process recognizes it as a game changer commercially, within social. It's a massive, massive setup that we need to be aware of. Ironically enough, I'm doing a course on AI. I do a lot of self-learning. To say I've read thousands of books is an accurate statement. At the very, very least, it is thousands. And I've always just had a passion to learn. People think I'm well educated. I'm not. I've just read a lot of books. Me in school had an interesting journey. That's a whole other podcast. So we'll leave that one alone for a minute. And at no point do I claim to be stupid. I've done a lot of stupid things, but I don't claim to be stupid. But my knowledge comes from reading and learning, and the AI element of that has really triggered me. So I'm quite balls deep on the learning journey of AI. My only comment would be the side I'm learning. So prompt engineering, understanding the different language models that are involved, and machine learning in a general sense. I would say that it is a real blunt comparison. In my driveway, not today, but rest assured it will happen. There's a Porsche Cabriolet Carrera 4 and there is a Mercedes G-Wagon. I cannot expect the G-Wagon to take me on the journey that the Carrera 4 will. They'll both be lovely journeys, and I'll both get from A to B very successfully and in a pleasant environment. However, they're wildly different. And these machine learning processes, the large language model of Perplexity over Claude, over ChatGPT, they all do slightly different jobs because they've been set up to do different jobs. And then on top of that, because you run a bespoke service, you cannot use the same AI prompts and the same language models to build something for Tommy over here and Mike over in where did you say?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. So even with the best will in the world and having a team of 6, to constantly rewrite machine learning to fit the profile, persona, and nature of us two individuals is a mistake. Now, my contention would be, from what I'm learning, and I'm a novice in the extreme, but from what I'm learning conceptually, is I could create my own AI to carry my voice to a large degree, as long as I'm bright enough to accept that you can't press enter, it churns out a result, and then hit publish. That would be a very, very naive mistake. And as long as I'm prepared to I've got to put in the work to start with, to feed the machine the language that's me.
Yeah.
On the flip side of it, I've then got to edit what the machine's done for me to deliver me. Now, is that of a value proposition equal to having a team of 7 creatives that do this as much as they breathe, and they have the dynamic feedback of multiple clients on multiple different platforms, delivering multiple messages to give you what you need to know as a client? And I agree with you. I think therein lies the downside to AI, that people think it's, it's like going to McDonald's for a healthy meal. It's a very, very unreasonable expectation.
Agreed.
Just because just because of the globalization of McDonald's, let alone anything else, let alone their food logistics and whether you can even get a healthy meal out at the end of their logistical process. Because there
Yeah.
are so many moving parts and there are so many gaps before the food gets from the farm to you.
That's
Excuse me a minute. I'm giving McDonald's the benefit of the doubt that there's even food coming out of a farm in the first place. But
yeah.
Don't get me started on mass-produced food. There's enough people on the internet covering that one way better than I can. So I agree with I wholeheartedly agree with your standpoint about AI. But I think if you're prepared, from my learnings to date,
Yes.
if you're prepared to put in a huge amount of work that is very, very clearly defined, I think you can produce an AI assistant
Yeah.
that will help you in your journey.
Agreed. And that's the thing. It should always be an assistant, not a replacement.
I think that's the definer. I think it's very much the definer.
Yeah.
Look, one of the guys I follow wholeheartedly, he's a thought leader. He's got a spiritual / woo-woo side to him, which I very much embrace. Is a guy called David Guiam. He's into the Kabbalistic approach to life. He's created an AI. The engineers that have worked with him to create this, and the guy's, I'd say he's minted. Now, whether or not he will subscribe to that is a different story, but I know he's put a lot of money and time into this project. But he's created an AI version of himself.
Mm.
And when you interact with it, it's spooky. It's really like in a really good way. It's like you and I having a chat. It's that interactive. Now, the argument, the premise is that he has put so much language into this machine that it's picking up, and then because it's getting so much use, it's building its own neural network, for one of a better description. And you know, the technologists out there that are way smarter than me will use other language, but just the man in the streets, me over here, and I'm using my language. So for anyone that's offended, my apologies. It's just my own limitations of language. AI, I'm sure, will word it better. But the point of the story is that there are opportunities to use it with an awful lot of investment of your own time, which is the thing that you want AI to relieve you of. I think it's like look, how do you get a Carrera 4 and a G-Wagon on your driveway? It ain't by mistake. There's a
Yeah.
very defined process that requires a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of skill, and then a lot of reward to say that you can have that driveway option. I've done it in the past. I'll do it again. Not sure when, but that's a different conversation. And I don't see AI changing your business. I think it will support it. I think it will be an assistant. I don't see it changing my business, but I need the support and the assist. Because also, just coming back to me, and I'm sorry to do it, but I'm probably a typical example of a client for you, in terms of there's so much shit I don't know about marketing, social media, UI and UX. I mean, I know the terms. I know UX and UI from mobile phones, because I remember when Google with the Pixel was trying to compete with Samsung, and
Yeah.
those two UIs, the user interfaces, Samsung had it markedly better and Google didn't. And Google were trying to go in their own direction with Pixel. These are mobile
Yeah.
phones for all Apple users. It's just their mobile phones that aren't Apple, just so everyone knows. But
Wait, those exist? Huh. Weird.
yeah, later. Well, shockingly, it's about
Yeah.
a 59, 51 to 49 split in the world. So,
Yeah. And this is one
whoever
of them.
wants
There
to
you go.
argue the fact that the other one doesn't exist is naive. However, the UI and UX is incredibly important, because when Pixel stopped trying to be its own beast, trying to be the Apple of the Android world, and just went, well, hang on,
Yeah.
everyone consistently loves Samsung. So why are we pissing on our own shoes? We're going to emulate much of what Samsung does well
Yeah.
and still have the Pixel. And now, of course, they're almost at the same price point. So their top level product is running at the top level product of Samsung, which I think is quite a bold move for someone that basically started out as a fucking search engine.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's brilliant when you look at that evolution of that business,
Yeah,
but also understand that they made their mistakes and they learned from them. And I think AI is the same. I think going against success, what you do, you've got a library full of success stories, and you've got a room full of personality and heart, which again, the serendipity and the and my burden. See, this is where it's interesting, and I wanted to come back around to this. We talked about it before we went on live, but today's podcast is reciprocity. It's that for me, meeting you, you were everything that I like and admire in a business person. You were genuine. You clearly had a skill set, and you had the drive to have something on offer. Now, whether that was
yeah,
of value to me, whether it was within my wheelhouse or my price point, none of that really mattered. I just felt you were someone, and what you do is something that's good for my audience. And I'm not so altruistic. Don't get me completely sainted off just yet. I did it because I like talking to good people, and I really wanted you on the podcast. But I also did it because I know that the audience, and this is now going to live forever. But you're going to be there helping people. Imagine this: that 2-3 years from now, you'll have a team of 30 or 40 people. You'll have
I hope
forgotten
so.
about this nonsense for an hour or so, and it'll sort of be a faded memory in the back of your mind. But someone will pick this up and go, "Fucking that pen and paper in hand." God forbid they've moved away from pen and paper in 2, 3, 5 years
Yeah,
time. But they'll go, "Well, I want to get hold of Jack and just see if he can help me with my problem." That to
I'd be
me
happy to.
is, yeah, that would exactly. And I know that. And again, that's why you're here. But that's my point about reciprocity. And I mean, an old fashioned, a slightly less complicated, not old fashioned, a slightly less complicated way of doing it is the paying forward mentality.
Yes, yeah,
And, I know you and I are on that page, and I'm paying it forward for the audience. I'm paying it forward for you. And at some point, I know that will come full circle. Um,
yeah.
and I'm happy for that. And I don't need to sit there with a spreadsheet going, well, I did this. Now, when's that coming back? Where's that on my spreadsheet as to when it's coming back? Genuinely, it doesn't matter.
And it defeats the purpose as well. Yeah, you have to do stuff
Yeah,
for other
somewhat.
people without wanting reward. So
Yes. Yeah. Well, you see, that's very Kabbalistic. So I'm glad I mentioned Mr. Guillaume. It is a mindset, though. You go to these shows, and truth be told, it's amusing because you're in the digital space and you're good at what you do, yet you still go to in-person events.
yeah. Very much so, because that's the authenticity of it. Like we try and this is how I've grown from 740 followers in January last year to 47,000 now almost in 18 months, is because I've created a little community on LinkedIn, and there's no replacement for community. There's no replacement for building a little audience around what you believe in and doing that in person or in real life. Ultimately, we like to create little communities online because we see seen, we feel heard, we feel like we matter as people. And if other people respond to us and listen to us, we feel validated in our souls that we're on this earth for a reason. And that again, I'm getting all hippy dippy, but it's true. Like fundamentally, humans need to feel that level of, okay, well, I feel loved, respected, and heard, and also that my life has meaning, and that I'm doing something that helps others. Or that, well, to be fair, that's my one, that helps others thing. But someone else's could be, I just want to be the biggest millionaire I can. And then you go, okay, yeah, but why? Why do you want to be really rich? And then they dig down and down and down. And at the base level, it's because they either want to provide for themselves because they've never had any support elsewhere, or they want to provide for others. And that's all it is, to provide. So mine is very much that I've got a house, I've got a partner, got a car, got some Lego. I'm sorted. So I'd like to provide for others as much as possible before I then tend to myself. That's my goal. It's not to be a millionaire. ultimately that'd be nice. And having the G Wagon and the Porsche Carrera, Simon had a Porsche Taycan, the electric one, and I
Yeah.
always thought, yeah, I'd love one of those. They look really cool. And my girlfriend loves the Mercedes G Wagons. Every time she sees one on one of her fancy property shows, driven by some LA superstar, they buy it and it's 200 grand or something. They just don't even bat an eyelid. It's that cheap to them. But to the rest of us mere mortals, that's many salaries. So yeah, eventually that would be nice to just not even bat an eyelid, walk into a dealership and walk out the same day with a car. But for now, at least, my focus is very much providing for other people, including my little team and their children. So Annika has 4 kids, and she's 29 and she has 4 kids. Her life is just pure chaos, but she thrives in the chaos. And in a weird way, I want to provide for those kids. I've never met them, but through
Oh,
Annika,
you've missed
I know
out.
that she's well. That's it.
For Welsh kids, you've missed
Yeah,
out. I promise you. I have nothing but sweet, warm things to say. And I am aware that there are many areas in Wales that have had savage and severe challenges socially and may not be producing
yeah,
the most socially acceptable range or tribe. We'll come because I want to come back to that, but they may not be producing the most welcoming tribe that you'd want to be in. But irrespective of that, the underlying DNA that's there and the underlying society, I just have nothing but warmth and love for Welsh people.
they're so nice. And it's not really a mistake that 3 out of my team, Thomas, Natasha, and Annika, they're all Welsh. I look in Wales and I live in Wales. I'm English to my shame, but yeah, to be fair, I do love the English as well, but Welsh are
We
just
all have our
nicer.
crosses. No, we have our crosses to bear, and you being English, I can say that as a card carrying Irish person,
Yeah.
albeit born here. Others, that was my mother's decision. I didn't have everything to say in that one, but the reality is both my parents are Irish immigrants.
Okay,
So
nice.
yeah, no, it's cool.
Very hardworking family, I'd imagine.
Well, yeah, they both were, and they both had a lot of sacrifices. I want to come back because you've picked up on a point, and it is to be of service is one of our core humanistic traits, and
Yeah.
every bit of science that you can go into. And my reference points here for most recent reference point, I suggest looking at Gary Brecker. He's given some great talks on the science of being of
Mm,
service, of helping people, of showing up for people. And the other
yeah.
one, Wayne Dyer, honestly, if you do nothing else in life, read or listen to everything that Wayne Dyer's ever put out, and it
Yeah.
will make you a substantially greater human being, and it will make you more successful on every area. But we both of those reference what you picked up on, our tribal instinct. We need to be in a group. And that was one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I did this. I run my business from home. I run it on my own. If I'm not talking to a client or talking to a prospect, I don't have anyone to talk to.
Yeah.
So I end up talking to the plants, the cats, or my 9-year-old for the 50% of the time he's with me. To be honest, he gives the best conversation. I don't speak good cat. Apparently
Yeah.
the plants are looking great. So whatever nonsense is coming out of me, the plants love it.
Nice.
However, yeah, it's cool. It's cool because only recently someone came in and went, "My God, your plants are amazing." And it's like, yeah, indoors they're fine. Outdoors, I don't think I spend enough time with them outdoors, so they just fade. The point I wander off from, and I'm sorry because you make such a compelling point, and you call it hippie. It's not hippie. It's fundamental. As a breed, humans have always hung out together in
Yeah.
every society all over the planet since the beginning of recorded history. That recorded history existed. Why? Because groups of people got together and shared stories. They did
Yes.
artwork. They wrote shit down. Again, another book, the Tao Te Ching, that was written before just about everything else of any notes was ever written or published or recorded, and
Yeah.
it's the precursor to every version of philosophy, religion, social guidance. And it's still only replicating what you're talking about, that we
Yeah.
should hang out together, that we should care about each other, that we should
Mm,
offer our services, our benefit, our thoughts. And they are the biggest drivers.
yeah.
You've picked up on one of yours. You now have a specific driver where you actually look for people from Wales.
Yeah.
And it's a small community. Now, it's a very clever community, and I have a whole load of subjective, not objective views on how smart they are. They've got the Welsh Assembly. They, I suspect faster, easier, and quicker than Scotland. They could become their own um, country, for want of a better word, and rightly
Mm.
so should. But that brings us into this whole British Empire hangover mentality that gets to play on people's opinions. So I won't open that can of worms any further. We'll try and put the lid back on that one. But mate, you're bang on it. It's about how you approach what it is you want to do and why you do it. And my final point, because this is a very, very important point you raised, and I hope it helps you because it's a bit of a trigger. I've been very fortunate in being extremely successful by any measure at different points in my past life. I have also been indescribably unsuccessful in every metric that you can think of, including homeless, penniless, and having lost everything. So you talk about having the cars on the driveway. The reality is you don't need to go and pay for the car. You only need to pay for what the car costs for how much you use it. So if you want to use the car for a year, you can have the car and you can have a 200 grand garage, and it will literally cost you 2 or 3 grand a month.
Mm.
So it's about positioning. And again, so say, for example, you set yourself up and you've got a residual income that gives you, sorry, a recurring residual income that
Mm.
will give you every single month 5 grand a month for the next 12 months. So there's two ways of looking at that. That's 60 grand, or it's 5 grand a month that you don't have to worry about. You're still going to work, you're still doing all your other shit, and actually your work and your other shit's giving you 40 grand a month. But the 5 grand a month is a recurring residual income that you don't have to worry about. Now that is, I feel that you are then morally, emotionally, and professionally, if someone was to analyze your business, perfectly entitled to go, I'm spending 4 grand of that on cars.
Yeah.
Or I'm
That's fair.
spending 4 grand of that on travel. I'm going away 2 times a month for 2 grand a trip.
Yeah.
And you go away for 2 weekends. A 2 grand weekend ain't too shabby. Generally speaking,
Actually,
it's
yeah.
it's okay. Well, no, mate, because I'm 2 grand a night is sort of where I would like to be for hotel fees, because that gives you a certain standard of hotel. But what it also does is it puts you in an environment where everyone else is on 2 grand a night. So
Yeah.
you're in a
And then
certain you're in a
yeah,
certain
you can
tribe.
make more clients. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
you can look at it one of two ways, and they're both very, very rewarding. Do I want to hang out with people that I'm interested in hanging out with, and it's going to cost me 2 grand a night? That's cool. Do I want to hang out with people that can spend 2 grand a night, so they're likely to be quite comfortable to pay my fees or be
Yeah.
interested in paying my fees? So the coin has
Mm.
two faces. But again, you've come back to, it's not about earning 60 grand a year. It's about what you want to do with the 5 grand a month that is so critical. It's a residual recurring income. You haven't had to go and graft for that every month. That is
Yeah.
working for you on the sidelines. On top
And
of the
yeah.
graft that you're doing, that your team of 20 is pulling in 40, 50 grand a month, and everyone's getting a monthly bonus. So the kids are going to Disney once a year because of the bonus that you've accumulated.
Yeah.
And there's a thought for you, Jack, because I know someone that does this, and I think it's a lovely thing. You might want to think about creating a pot.
Mm.
If you've got a predominant number of people in your team that are parents, create a
Yeah.
pot and go, there's 15 grand. Do you want to go to Disney? Whatever you want to do, that's for you and the family to spend. You've earned it. I'm giving it to you. Alternatively, you could get really cute and you'll need to talk to an accountant about this, but you don't actually give them the money. You buy the holiday for them. So it
Mm.
then becomes a more tax efficient process for giving them an in-person
Yeah.
relatable bonus that's more tax efficient for them and for you.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, talk to an accountant, and also whenever you hear this, I suspect the principle will exist, but you need to check with an accountant, a tax advisor, on what the current tax laws are. Because
Yeah.
let me put a long list of caveats out there. I am not an accountant. I am not a mental health expert. I'm not a child psychologist. But what I am is someone that's lived life and have lots of people that have given me lots of great information, like Jack. There's great people that have come through my life. So I can give you these little nuggets because either I've lived them, seen them, or been bitten by them in some cases where I didn't get it right. So I'll just caveat that. So what's it called? Favorite old
Disclaimer.
saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
disclaimer. My favorite disclaimer: past performance is no guarantee of future results.
Yeah. But it's
However,
usually a good indication. Yeah.
exactly, it's a bit like having AI assist you, not replace you. Past
Yeah.
performance is a good indicator. So it could be that that's a wonderful piece of successful advice based on my past performance. It could also be at the beginning of the end based on past performance. So
Yeah.
amusingly, that there's that to it. And I'm sorry, but I had to jump in about just about where your touch points are. You know,
No, I'm
those
glad
are
you did.
they're beautiful things, but you can play around with them. And certainly your girlfriend will thank me when she realizes that she's going to be keeping an eye on your bank balance. And when it hits 2 grand every month, she might just go, well, that's a Porsche or a G-Wagon. Which one do you want? Because again,
Yeah.
mate, they don't have to be brand new, and you're not buying them. You're effectively renting them, which is a much smarter move with a devaluing asset. You're
Yeah.
much better off renting it so that if you do hit hard times, you give it back.
Yeah.
That
Makes
devaluing
sense.
asset it's no longer a burden upon your cash flow or your asset base. Bit of old-fashioned hardcore wisdom going in there.
That's good wisdom. No, yeah, I appreciate it. And also the whole sort of mentality of that flip side of things, of thinking of things outside the box, thinking of the ways things in a different way. That's really important. That's probably why you've been successful, and sometimes also why you've not been successful. But yeah.
Yeah, there's I have a lot more respect for traditional thinking than I used to.
Mhm.
But I also buy into where you come from, which is my own personal authenticity. I can't do away with that. I've changed it a lot from the 20-year-old version of me that was indescribably untethered.
Mhm.
And becoming a father is without a doubt, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. But I don't think it could have happened a day earlier than when it did, because I had to make a bridge from being completely untethered to
Yeah.
being tethered in a healthy way. It's not a restriction that I can ever complain about, because the rewards, the integration, that you talk about tribe, you talk about being with people that you want to be with. Unless you make a complete fuck up of it, which I have seen, and I have nothing but pain and sorrow for. But unless you make a complete fuck up of it, there is no better tribe to be in than your own, the one that
Yeah.
you've built and created. Now, albeit the mother of my child is most definitely not in my tribe, and there's no way that we would ever have that environment again. We did have it initially. I have it with my son, and I'm happy for that. That is incredible. Yeah, but it's a mindset. So, I didn't have a child until I was 54, so I had no concept. I promise you, in a way that is like trying to go to Mars when you've never even trained as an astronaut. Becoming a parent is a similar journey. Going
Mm.
from not parent to parent is like
Yeah.
traveling from here to Mars when you've never ever even put on an astronaut suit, let alone understood what it means to travel in space. It's such a bridge to cross. However,
Yeah.
when you get there, you will spend all your time thinking to yourself, "Oh my God, this is just, how did this happen? What's going on?" But I love it. But it's a journey and a half that is
Yeah.
super, super rewarding. But I won't wax lyrical on that anymore. My point was really that as non-parents, you are so unaware of the pleasure and the pain of that journey, because there is a great deal that you lose, and
Yeah.
there's an immeasurable amount that you actually get as long as you embrace it. And
I
you're
can
getting
imagine.
that to a degree. You're getting that to a degree, though, mate, because you're building that team and your
Yeah.
mentality, your connection with your team. I always used to say, "Oh, my business is like my family." I didn't know what I was talking about, so there was a large degree of ignorance around that. However, the mindset was correct, and you have that mindset.
Yeah.
You have,
Very much
you
so.
have that empathy to Annika, for example, you had that empathy with Annika to let her run forward. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that's replicated at least 5 times over with the next 5 people in your team.
Very much so. Yeah, I trust them almost implicitly to do their thing with very little oversight from me because I trust them. Obviously, while they're still learning and everything, like a couple of the team are still juniors, but I provide that guidance and support. It turns out I'm now on the flip side. I've got 15 years of experience, and I actually do know a fair bit. Whereas it's easy to just trundle along through life thinking, you don't know what you're doing, you just make it up as you go. And then also, oh, hang on a minute, I actually can teach someone something useful. So I did. When I was sorry, I've just sort of jumped in here, but
No, do
yeah,
do. It is your show. I meant to keep quiet.
no, it's all good. Like, honestly, I have to say this, that when I was a 20-year-old in my first design job, I walked up the stairs in a full suit, 3-piece suit from Matalan, like the cheapest suit makers that I could find.
Where we all started. I remember
It's
Mr.
true.
Byright, which is going to age me criminally, but it was the equivalent of Matalan in my day. It's where we
Gotcha.
started,
Okie
buddy.
doke. Amazing. And
So
then,
there
yeah.
you were in your 3-piece, which I'm still dying to see. Will you get it on for a fancy dress gig?
I hope it doesn't fit anymore because I was only 20. But yeah, it's I was very very impressionable, and so I walked up the stairs to my first interview with this proper design company. I've been very fortunate. It sounds cocky, but I've been very fortunate to have gotten every job that I've interviewed for and wanted. Some jobs I've interviewed for, and I haven't really been fussed about it, and the interview reflected that, and I didn't want it. But this job, first ever design interview, and they took a chance on me, which was great. But I walked up the stairs to this little pokey little barn. There were 16 employees, and there were like 3 development teams dotted about. There was 2 designers, and I was going to come on as a developer because I thought, well, I want to be a designer, but they don't have any design slots, so I'll just go along and see what happens, and maybe I can transition at some point. And they said, well, we don't think you're going to be a good developer, just quite blunt, because you don't think the same way. And I thought, okay, yeah, fine. But we could make you a designer. We don't have any slots open, but we can rearrange and we can create a design job for you. And I was like, I don't
Beautiful.
I don't know what to say. Yeah, what do I even say to that? I interviewed for a job that didn't existed, and they created a job for me, which was clearly they saw something in me, which was nice. But Fritha, my design creative director, it was the 2 of them. It was Darren and Fritha, and it was almost like the Jedi and Sith, right? You've got a master and an apprentice, and so Darren was the master. He's mid 40s, 50s, and Fritha was 27, 28 at the time. And she was the apprentice, but they realised with my coming along being quite opportune that Fritha, it was time for her to level up. So Darren moved on to other projects into a separate office, and Fritha became the new creative director, which meant she then needed an apprentice.
You were the new Padawan.
I was, very much so, yeah. And just like Anakin, when he turns up for the first time, I was like a little bit sort of shy, but also kind of like, I think I know what I'm doing, but I don't really know. And when I say Anakin, I do mean the episode 1 Anakin who's just a little kid, but he becomes a lot more cocky as he gets older. But yeah, hopefully I won't, burn to death in a pool of lava and become Darth Vader, but we'll see, whatever the future holds.
Well, just stay away from Sith Lords, mate. That's all you've got to do. Stay away from the dark side.
It's a good idea. There was one particular guy who I thought was a friend and a mentor. Turns out to have been kind of a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
So, but he's out of my life now, so it's all good. Yeah, it just kind of promises. If someone promises you the world in terms of the career that you want, the positions in the business that you want, and then throws you under the bus, it's not a good move.
No.
So he's out of the picture, which is nice. But yeah, so anyway, Fritha, I'm getting very distracted. My thing that I'm most excited about in this business right now is that I was just a little kid, 20-year-old. Fritha was 27, and she mentored me and raised me up. And kind of like if I was to be a plant, she was the one who provided the water and the sunlight, And so I then grew into the plant that I was supposed to be over the next 3 or 4 years. I want to do that with my design attache. and also with my writer Gabby. They're, like I say, they're both new to the business and they're both juniors, but they are amazingly quick and intuitive, and they're learning so fast. But it's really weird in a nice way being on the other side. I'm in Fritha's position, and it's so rewarding to be in that space where you can give advice, you can see the light bulb moments happen, and you can
Yeah.
sort of give their advice, and they go, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Oh, thanks. And then that'll click. And then the next time you do a similar problem, they've done it without even thinking because you taught them. And yeah, I'm thrilled to be in this position right now. So yeah, one of the benefits of getting older, right? So
Well, I would say evolving. You've
yeah,
evolved into this position. You're still, mate, you're still young. I'm sorry, but you are. Um, and again, so I love that. It amuses me because I am, by every common measure, an older dad. It amuses me because I'm not by energy, and I'm not by
yeah,
nature as to how I am. However, the reality is I've got so many waypoints and reference points and so many episodes in my life that I can lean back into, that I can go from, trying to remember. So Alec Guinness, when he was Obi-Wan Kenobi in the rocks on, was it
yeah.
Tatoo? Was it Tatooine?
Tatooine, yeah,
Yeah, it was. It was Tatooine. So in what was the original first Star Wars movie, not episode one, but whether it was
yeah,
episode five or something.
yeah.
That guy going back to being baby.
Oh, Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, no, going back to being Anakin, going back to being baby
Yes,
Anakin. So I've got that whole book of, well, library of episodes of life that amuse me. Then when you start going, well, what about this? Because I would say to you that you're beyond Fritha. I would suspect, you may not think it yet, but you're very much Simon.
hmm.
And
Wow,
if you're
that's
not, well,
yeah,
I see a lot of mirroring going on there that you can reflect on for your own amusement. But I bring it up because other people should do it. Look, I don't do it myself enough. I am
yeah,
still very much learning about me, because certain people get tuned into me and certain people can only hear annoying interference when I'm around. It just, my energy and my language just doesn't work for them. And it's a shame because I can help them no less than I can help the people that are tuned into me. And I only
yeah,
want to help. I've got no axe to grind. I've had the money, I've lost the money, I've had the money, I've lost the money. I've got a roof over my head. I mean, it was a fantastic statistic. And just to put a bit of reality, here we go, I've just blurred out now. Sorry, the camera will catch up in a minute. Um, the the whole thing about the cars on the driveway
hmm.
is is a pleasure thing. It's not a need thing, because
Yeah,
we are better than something like 85% of the planet, by virtue of the fact that we have a roof, not one we own even, but that we have a roof over our head, that we have electricity, internet, food, and running water. That puts
yeah,
us in front of something like 85% of the planet. So,
yeah,
this thing about reflection and evolution, and then where you see yourself, we're privileged, gifted, and super lucky already. But the
yeah,
reality is you're aspirational, and that's fine. And don't be bothered by it. But anytime you want to berate yourself or go, oh, I'm not that good, fuck off. You are that good. Well, you are, because if you weren't, there'd be no one around you.
yeah.
And
True.
and even the guy sitting on the street begging, that's homeless, and he's still there begging, he's still looking for money to move forward. He's not curled up in a corner hoping someone's going to drop it in his lap. He's moving out. And there are genuine people, unfortunately, that are genuinely homeless and genuinely need help, and they're on the streets. That was part of the reason why, ironically, so we ended up in that Excel show for I ended up there for two reasons only. One, I wanted to go and see Start Bank, the
Nice.
Simon Squibb charity program for startup businesses. And the other one was that I wanted podcast guests.
Hmm.
And the irony is,
Nice.
I hit all my marks. And it was only a day out in London, but I knew what I wanted and why I wanted it. And again, the serendipity of finding you finding me at a time just as I was about to leave the show. It can't be ignored, and it should be appreciated and recognised. Because to be honest, thank you for today. I've loved this show. I can only hope that the listener enjoys it, and then we can move on
Yeah.
from there.
I agree. Yeah, no, it's been lovely, honestly. Just
Cool.
like you said, waxing lyrical about a bunch of stuff, and also self-reflection. I will take that away and go later on. So yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
well, you've aimed for Fritha, and I've got you at Simon. So that,
Mm.
if nothing else, that and the fact that I've made your girlfriend happy because she will get a car on the driveway that she quite likes in a nearer time
Exactly.
frame than before, and it's better for
Yeah,
you financially. It's better for you to rent, not buy, and you don't
yeah,
need to buy brand new. So just make sure it's low mileage and it's got service history. You'll be fine.
makes
Can't go
sense.
wrong. That's the car dealer in me, just giving you a bit of advice. But I'm sorry about the listener gag, but it's a Kenny Everett gag that I always used to enjoy and just adore. And he had such
It
a
is
strong
good.
following. Yeah,
Hmm.
such a strong following. So, where can people find you? Where would you like them to go? Is there anything you would like to share with them that's relevant to your operation? And then finally, because I'm going to steal something from a couple of very successful podcast hosts, but two things that you now realize are absolutely foundational in who and what you are that I'd like you to share with the audience about you or about what you've learned on your journey to this moment in time before you put in your details of who you are. Is that okay? Two things that
Of
matter
course.
most to you.
Sure. So, yeah, because I've already forgotten the first bits you said, so I'll go with that for now. Um, Two things that are foundational to who I am and that I've learned over this journey. Okay. I am someone who thinks differently, someone who is entrepreneurial and someone who's a bit of a contrarian. I love to I love juxtaposition. Um, my branding is dark blue and bright pink. You know, it stands out. You can see the dark blue wall there. I actually have a Storytold logo, which eventually I'll get installed when I can find a reliable tradesman. Hard to
Yeah, good
come by,
luck.
but yeah, it's I was one was meant to turn up this morning, which is I sometimes you see me like fidgeting and look out the window. It's because I'm still waiting for him to actually bloody turn up, and it's almost 1 o'clock. But yeah, so something I've learned as well, I don't tolerate fools very easily. I'm quite straight shooting. I'm quite like blunt to the point of almost being rude. But I always preface it with, "Are you happy for me to be rude? Are you happy for me to be blunt?" And people usually say yes.
Give me permission to absolutely kick you in the face and the nuts.
Pretty
Fair
much, yeah,
enough.
because it's for your own benefit, yeah. And um, essentially, something I've learned is that I like to do my own thing. I like to build my own thing, create my own thing, but it's not about me. It's all from a place of helping other people. It's all from a place of whatever I can give of myself to that other person. I've worked 14-hour days, 15-hour days, even more for the last year and a half, and I'm fucking knackered, to be honest. But it's all for a good cause because it's all in service of building a company that can help other people and, most importantly, can help the people that matter to me most, which is my girlfriend, my family, and my team. I
There
want to
you
get
go.
to a point where I can deliver on everything that these people believe in me for. I want to be able to provide for them because that's a big responsibility, and I want to live up to it. I want to prove that I'm worthy. So yeah, I said I a
You
million times there, so didn't mean to come
no,
across as selfish.
no, but it's true. It was an I question. So it required a few eyes in there. Tell me about what you do. Um,
Fair.
and bear in mind that you've made the size of that responsibility. You've chosen the size of that responsibility because you could have stuck
Yeah,
being on your own, and then you
yeah,
went, no, I'm going to get. Oh no, I'm going to get. Oh no, I'm going to get. And you did that 6 times.
yeah,
So maybe not choose the size of your family, and certainly you've. I think it's relatively healthy that you're in a partnership. I miss not being in a partnership. So you're in a partnership with someone, so
yeah,
that's automatic. You can't change those. But the other six and the clients and the number of clients you have, that's why you've got 14 and 15-hour days, mate. These
yeah.
are these are burdens you've chosen, but they're burdens you can carry, clearly.
Yeah, well, just
Just
about. I would like a
weekends
few less
off.
burdens, but yeah, yeah, that's something I need to change because weekends off is something I haven't done for the last 4 weekends. This weekend, though, as in the one just gone, I actually took Sunday off. So that's good.
Good.
Progress.
All things in balance is critical for longevity. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind. It will serve you better. And then the one that I started with, and I corrected myself in my own script that's going on in here, because I did want that last piece from you about you. But tell us also how to reach you. I will put it in the show notes when I get to edit. This definitely goes out on Spotify and YouTube. So anything connected with those is a good move. Obviously, LinkedIn, we will promote the granny, as a very old-fashioned saying again, but we'll promote the granny out of this one. Anyone that's confused, go and find a Cockney celebrity and they'll tell you what that means. But we'll
Yes.
promote this on LinkedIn and elsewhere as well, I'm sure. But if you can, where will we find you, Jack? Where would you like us to
Yeah.
look for you?
So because I primarily, what Storytold does, me and my team, we help you grow your audience and monetize your voice on LinkedIn. You can find us on LinkedIn. It would be foolish if we weren't there. So I did see a sign
Yeah.
writer the other day. Like I saw drove past this sign and it was a shitty little sort of blue sign with white writing, and it was advertising sign writing. And the sign itself was absolutely rubbish. So I thought, you know what? If I advertise on LinkedIn, if I help people grow their LinkedIns, mine's got to be pretty pucker. So it
Yes.
is. And so that's where you can find it. Find me, storytold.co.uk. If you Google me, I'm sure I pop up, Jack Dyer at Storytold.
One would
But
hope.
yeah, fingers crossed. But if you struggle to remember the name, what's the name of that company? Just think we're the team who get your story told. So
Shocking. What a good link.
there you go.
Fantastic.
It works. Yeah.
Jack,
Cool.
it's genuinely been an intense pleasure. Thank you very much.
Likewise, Thomas. Thank you.
Have a very peaceful day, and we will
And
see
you.
each
Cheers.
other soon, I'm sure.
Definitely.
Cheers, buddy. Be well.
Bye.